And joining us now on our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a woman who's written a book that I'm sure is going to help a lot of people, called Seeking Serenity, the 10 New Rules for Health and Happiness in the Age of Anxiety. We're joined by Amanda Enayati. You see her on CNN, also on PBS, and she joined us on telephone from San Francisco today. And Amanda, good to chat with you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, good to have a chance to talk with you for a few minutes, and an opportunity to read through the book. Very moving stories about your personal experience in this, but you're making something good out of it.
Yes, and it's really, I always talk about the irony of someone who's had the life experiences that I've had becoming a stress columnist, because I jokingly refer to my experiences as the encyclopedia of stress. Having been a child refugee and having lived without a country for a few years and eventually ending up in my new home in the United States. And, I was a big firm lawyer. I was in New York the day the towers collapsed and had a very deep traumatic experience to it because it reminded me of the adversities of escaping a revolution. And so there's just been a lot of things that have happened, and becoming a stress columnist really helped me understand and relate to stress in a very different way than I had in the past.
Yeah, I'm from New York. I was up there, happened to be up there that week during 9/11, and obviously it affected everybody emotionally, but were you surprised how it affected you even more than maybe other people?
I mean, I don't know that it affected me differently, only because things that impact us all differently, because sometimes they push buttons or remind us of things that have happened. And so I hadn't really, I escaped the Iranian Revolution as a child, so I hadn't really thought about the way that I related to adversities of that kind. And 9/11, believe it or not, really it triggered almost sort of a post-traumatic reaction, because it was this thing. It was so large, and me and my fellow New Yorkers were standing on the corners, on our street corners. We were standing on 6th and Bleecker, and we were seeing the towers on fire, and then we saw them collapse. And the extent to which that had really hit me was nothing that I'd expected before.
Well, talk a little bit about, and again, your personal situation. You also went through some health issues too, which really adds the stress to it. So you've really gone through a lot, Amanda.
Yes, and a few years later, I was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. Oh. I had 2 toddlers at home, and really was trying to figure out why this was happening. And it was a situation that I had spent a lot of time lamenting and not understanding why all these things kept happening to me. And it's fate or whatever you want to call it. This assignment came my way of really examining stress in our lives and what it means and what it can do for us. And so it completely helped me reframe adversity and tell a better story that really served me. And I think what is my favorite thing about my book is really sort of not taking our stories about stress for granted. It's actually stopping and looking at our narratives and saying, okay, what part of our stories is serving us? Great, let's keep doing that. But what part of our stories about stress aren't serving us, and how can we change them so that they help us evolve and get better?
And when you talk about stress, obviously there's different types of stress. There's actually good stress. I mean, kind of the pressure to perform, that's a good thing for you. But obviously, the things like cancer and other things, divorce and that kind of thing, that's bad stress, obviously, right?
Well, there are very clear definitions. Our wonderful researchers have helped us understand what kind of stress can be good and what kind of stress can be bad, and what kind of stress is tolerable but helps us evolve. Mm-hmm. So good stress is acute, short bursts of stress. Then, as you said, very perceptively, it can help us recover better from illness. It can help us deliver better on assignments, give better speeches. Leaning in for a first kiss is a short burst of stress. So these are acute stressors that happen to us throughout the day. And then there's toxic stress, which is really this chronic form of stress that we experience, going from high stress situation to high stress situation to what we perceive as threats and high stress situations throughout our day. And even there's a very particular way of stressing better. What we don't want to do is keep talking about this life, this elusive, lifestyle where we can live stress-free lives. There is no such thing as a stress-free life, and you don't want to live a stress-free life, because really the pathway to growth is through adversities and learning and failing and learning and just getting better. That, in fact, is the way our best athletes experience stress. They willingly move into situations that test their limits, and they make themselves uncomfortable, and they stay with the discomfort so that they can force a bloom, so that they can perform better. That is the narrative that we all want to apply to stress, that it's not all bad, and that, in fact, a lot of it is serving us, and that when we are going through chronic stress, we can learn how to do that better. We can give ourselves periods of low to no stress. So our days do not want to look like these periods of high stress to high stress to high stress, that we very consciously want to insert these periods of low to no stress. And that can be just about anything. You don't have to buy a product. You don't have to do anything. You can take deep breaths. You can go for a walk. You can cuddle your pet or take a hot shower, exercise, or whatever works for you. So there's a way to stress better, even when you're experiencing chronic stressors in your life.
And you talk about it in the book as well. You just kind of mentioned it there about the narrative of stress and kind of with big tobacco companies kind of set that narrative, didn't it, back in the 50s, right?
So not back in the 1950s, we started seeing a very sharp increase in cardiovascular disease. And as the research started trickling in about what this was attributable to, it was both tobacco and diet-related, some lawsuits started coming the way of big tobacco. And so we have since been able to see the memoranda as part of a big settlement. The tobacco companies had to release all these memoranda about what they were going to do about these lawsuits. And there's this really disturbing picture emerging about the way that they started funding scientific research in order to craft this narrative about how overwhelmed we were by modern life. And so since the 1950s, our stories have taken a very dramatic turn from that which does not kill us makes us stronger, or the obstacle in the path become the path, right? From stress as a very empowering narrative, potential empowering narrative, to this narrative of, I am overwhelmed by modern life, and it's really kind of victimizing me. So, and it's what some really wonderful researchers, including Aaliyah Crum from Stanford, call the stress mindset. We need to change our narratives and our mindsets about stress, and that is the pathway to using stress as a guide to better living, to evolving, to being happier and more purposeful.
It's amazing when you see some of those old cigarette commercials, how it made smoking look so good for you that would help you through stress, right?
Yeah. Well, in fact, there was this one narrative that they kind of put out about how all of these campaigns to quit smoking were actually what was stressing people out.
Right.
That's kind of crazy if you think about it, right? That don't tell people not to smoke because it's stressing them out. They're overwhelmed by modern life. They really need to smoke and do other things in order to kind of make it through their day. This is what they need as a way to relieve stress. Well, that narrative has done us no service.
No, yeah, they made it look glamorous, but fortunately they took those off the air, so that's good. But now you came up with the 10 principles. We won't go through all of them, but maybe just one or two. I guess one you just kind of brought up before, being resilient. That's a huge one, isn't it?
Yes, and it's really about kind of using the adversities and the stories, the good things and the bad things that happen to us, of creating self-awareness about what the stories are, about what they mean to us, focusing on your strengths, helping to develop better connections, and using the storytelling device. There's a researcher from UT Austin that really shows that when you use narrative storytelling, that when you write about your experiences, that you actually have much better physical and psychological outcomes. It's an incredible body of research. But what that storytelling helps us do is to identify our stories and to take them and put them together in a way that really serves us much better. So resilience is something that can come through adversity and can come through the negative experiences and the positive experiences.
Great advice and great stories in the book. It's called Seeking Serenity, the 10 New Rules for Health and Happiness in the Age of Anxiety. We've been talking with Amanda Enayati today. And Amanda, I know it just came out. Do you want to give a website people can get a hold of you or the book?
Well, I have a very active community on social media. So if you type my name, Amanda Enayati, Enayati, into Facebook, I have a wonderful community. I post lots of articles. We discuss them. I'm also on Twitter. The book is in the bookstores now, and you can also buy it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and lots of other places. So if you look for my name or look for Seeking Serenity, you will find me.
Great. And we also have a place on our website people can order it as well. But Amanda, appreciate you taking a few minutes. Again, great job with really kind of covering this topic of stress. Everybody deals with it, so it's helpful to a lot of people. But thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles Media.